बस इतना सा। ये एक अंतर प्रेरणा है। ये हमारी, आपकी, हम सब की अंतर प्रेरणा है। एक कदम, एक छलांग, एक बाजी, एक गहरी सांस और एक ललकार खुली हवाओं में कि हाँ, मैं बना हूं उन फिजाओं के लिए, कि हाँ, मैं बना हूं उन ऊंचाइयों के लिए जो ऊंची तो बहुत है पर नामुमकिन भी नहीं, क्योंकि मुमकिन और नामुमकिन में बस इतना सा फर्क है। धूप छांव में फर्क बस इतना सा। तो बस चलिए फ्रेंचाइज इंडिया के साथ ये फर्क मिटा देते हैं। फ्रेंचाइज इंडिया।
Friends, a very good morning to all of you. I welcome you all on today's webinar of Invest Advantage. I'm Sonia Chaudhary, Managing Director, Franchise India. And this webinar is about taking a very important decision in your life, which may be only once in your lifetime, unlike many other decisions, including investment decisions that you might take more than once in your life. And this decision is about starting your own business. So, friends, I'll start with setting the perspective. I'll also request all of you to make the session interactive. Any questions that you have on franchising, on business models, I'll be happy to answer that. And I will also start with giving you a little brief about our company, Franchise India. While I understand most of you or many of you have been following us and might have been to a lot of our events platforms and might have been interacting with a lot of opportunities already. And I'll also ask some questions to know a little bit about you. It'll help me to understand who all have come today on this webinar. So starting with us at Franchise India, we work with aspiring entrepreneurs like you, or I would say, aspiring business owners like you to help them to take this important decision of starting your own business. And our platform has been helping with prospective franchisees like you to research from plethora of business opportunities which are present in India, from Indian domestic brands to national brands, international brands. We also work with you to evaluate these business options, and most importantly, I would say, educate you on the right way to invest in business opportunity and learn from the industry experts. Over the last 27 years of our existence, we have worked with millions of business buyers who have actually trusted the platform of Franchise India to research these opportunities, from a unit franchisee to a multi-unit franchisee to a master franchisee of many international brands. And I would say I had the privilege of directly working with the nearly 1 lakh investors who I worked with them, guided them to take this important decision of investing in a business, where we as a company, as a group, we combine all the knowledge that we have gained over the years, our experience that we gathered over these years, and we work with prospective investors, handheld them through the entire journey or process of starting a business. So today we are proud and very humbled, as we worked with every, or I would say the entire community of franchising, from people like you or entrepreneurs like you wanting to take maybe their first plunge into entrepreneurship or maybe diversify your existing businesses. And at the same time, we also work with the entire, I would say, spectrum of brands, from startups to unicorns to listed companies to international brands wanting to come to Indian market, who want to appoint franchises and go through a franchise expansion route. And franchising, just to give you a little overview, it creates a lot of intelligence synergies because it brings in a lot of combined strength of the company, the franchisor, and equally of the franchise partner, because you both collaborate with each other to make the business model sustainable. And another thing which a lot of people ask is about which industry is best or which brand is best. Franchising cuts across every single industry, and we all are witness to that. We have seen successful franchise companies across all segments, all industries, all sectors, whether that's F&B, whether that's retail, whether that's health, beauty, wellness. We have successful companies working across all these sectors. Hence, every business is good, is what I would say. But you as a business owner, as an investor, you need to find your own fitment of what is right for you. And that is something that should be based on very inclusive approach and a very integrated approach, which includes a lot of dimensions from your interest to your experience to the finances which are available. And equally important, I would say more important is the risk appetite, the time involvement that you have for the business. And while all that is something you take consideration at your end, even the companies, the franchisors, they also want to ensure they bring in the right partner and qualified partners to run and operate the business, because the success or failure of any brand or business directly impacts the business and the image goodwill of the companies. So how big is this opportunity in franchising is something I would start with. We started about 27 years back because we felt India was a very big market and an opportunity where we have almost every home there is somebody who wanted to start a business. And when we started back in 1999, there were no platforms in the country where people could come across, search these opportunities, and take an informed decision of buying a business. And over these 27 years at Franchise India also, we have worked very hard to build these capabilities through our distribution. Today, we are there in 97 cities in India. So most probably all the locations that you have joined in from, we'll have a local team, our advisors and consultants who are based out of these cities, who can meet with you. You can meet with them and brainstorm the opportunities that you're thinking of, or you have any questions, they'll be happy to maybe sit with you and discuss with you. And we run in about 14 countries across the globe, which also makes Franchise India one of the, I would say, the world's only company which has the largest franchise development and distribution spread across evenly in India and across the globe. And we also run a very big advisory business where we work with prospective investors like you who want to take a business which can be as small as maybe an investment of 15, 20 lakhs. It could also be a bigger corporate who want to take maybe bigger rights for an international brand, or a family enterprise who wants to maybe acquire another business. So the spectrum that we work is very, very wide and across all industries. Now, the question comes, why franchising? If you want to start a business, there are many ways to start a business. And there, I would say, typically three bigger ways one can start a business. One is you can do your own startup. A lot of companies, individuals, they start their own business and they run and operate their own businesses as startups. Second is you buy something which is already there in the market, which means there is somebody running a business. You acquire that business, buy that business, which is called resales of business, and you can start running that. And third is you take up something which is tried and tested, and there are systems, processes which are laid down, and that's what we call franchising. And compared to starting your own business, franchising comes as a very big safety net because it is tried and tested. You have support system from the franchisor who over the years have perfected their business model, and then they pass on that business model, their systems, their processes to their franchise partners. Now, franchising is a very big impact market. I'm sure all of you would also agree on that, because everything that we consume today, starting from the morning till the evening, every single product that we consume, every single service that we consume today is coming from a franchise business, which means the services that we use, the schools our children go to, even the salon services that we consume, the gyms that we go to, even the hospitals that we go to, the hotels, the five-star hotels across the world that we stay in, they all come from franchise business. So franchising cuts across every industry, and overall globally, this is $5 trillion as an industry, which is much higher than the GDP of our country. And globally, America is the number one economy when it comes to business of franchising. And India is the second largest market of franchising in the world, which is currently at about $180 billion. And there has been a very big growth in franchising over the last 27 years. And what it looks like the next 10 years will be 10x of what it is today. It is growing almost at about 30% year on year. And I'll give you some reasons why that is happening. If you look at the entire consumption story of India, it is becoming very, very big. And India has become now, the most sought after destination for all the international brands to come and start their business and operations in India. Nearly 70% of our GDP in India is driven by domestic consumption. And if we compare that with economies like China and other top five economies, comparatively, this is highest amongst the top five economies of the world. And consumption is what is something which keeps our economy resilient. And franchising is directly proportionate to consumption, which means as we start consuming more, there are more formalization of consumption which is happening. We are consuming more brands that we used to consume maybe 10 years back or maybe 2 decades back. And more importantly, our consumption cycles are also changing, which means our per capita consumption of what we were consuming maybe 5 years back. And take, for instance, even restaurants of food with coming of platforms like Zomato, Swiggy, our consumption of eating out, dining out, or even ordering has increased at least 3 to 4 times than what it was 5 years back. So our consumption cycles are changing, and all that is changing to also help franchising as a business. Most consumer categories, I'm sure you might also be witnessing that change as a consumer yourself, are becoming 3.5 times larger than what they were 30 years back. In 1991, the consumer categories were not as big as they are today. They're 3.5 larger than what they were 30 years back. So formalization of consumption, where people becoming more brand conscious. The second area is also, which is very important, is the rise of first-time entrepreneurs in our country. India is a very big, in fact, it has a very big legacy of entrepreneurship, and franchising and entrepreneurship are also very correlated. And in India, inherently, we have a very substantial entrepreneurial population where demand, especially at the bottom of the pyramid for micro businesses, is very, very large. And like I said, there's no surprise India is called a shopkeeper nation because we have somebody in every home who wants to start a business at some point of time in their life. And so the first time business buyer in our country today, of all the 100 businesses, I would say we sell, out of these 100 businesses, 60 businesses are taken by people who are first time business buyers, who have no experience of running and buying a business. At Franchise India, we work with brands across all industry spectrums, regional brands, national brands. And today we also own the master rights of about 45 global brands that we have, taken the rights for India and also subcontinent and other countries where we have our presence in. And I've seen a very big trend, especially in the last, I would say, 3 years post the COVID period, where the demand for international brands, larger partnership in form of area franchisees have also increased. In the last 6 months, we helped almost about 10 international brands come to India market in the form of area franchisee partnership that was awarded to a lot of entrepreneurs in India. And out of these master franchisees, I would say most of them, 90% of these area franchisees were taken by young entrepreneurs in the age group of 25 to 40 years who had no experience of running and operating a business. So all that narrative in India is now changing. The first time business buyer is becoming a very, very big community. They're experimenting and taking a lot of international opportunities and larger opportunities from corporates like Reliance, Raymond Group, and many such companies today who are franchising their business opportunity to territories across India. So I'll come back to say, see, entrepreneurship journey is not something which is easy. It requires a lot of planning and timelines. So I always advise don't rush into taking something immediately, but you put in sufficient time doing your in-depth research and due diligence before you sign off any business that you want to take. So before I go on to talk about, because at Franchise India, we have created a very tried and tested structure of what works well, because with so many options available in the market, and I'm sure you read a lot of news, there are platforms like franchiseindia.com. We do about 200 exhibitions every year. And I meet a lot of investors who come to our exhibition. They see so many opportunities around, but they also get a little overwhelmed with so much of information which is floating around, and they need guided assistance in their entire buying process. And this is where we actually come in. So as a consultant, we take a holistic approach on the overall investment, which includes your ROI, how the industry has been growing, how the brand has performed over the past years, maybe their global performance in international market, the predictable cash flows, margins, but above all, and the greatest emphasis that we put is on reducing the risk on the investment, which comes with a mix of a lot of things, which includes your CapEx planning, the investment that goes at the start of the project, how you need to forecast your operating expenses, the competition analysis, the support from the company, trademark, your legal terms with the company, the exit, which is very, very important. And a lot of investors don't even ask that question. So as a franchise consultant, we take a very research-based approach so that we can bring in a non-biased solutions and never based on maybe our personal recommendations or our personal preference or experience that we have. So I'll talk about what an ideal situation for a first-time business buyer, or I would say even a seasoned business buyer, the assessment tools that we have created for any business buyer, which you should consider before buying a business. But before I get there, friends, I'll request all of you to make the session interactive. I'll also request if you have any questions, you can put that in the Q&A box. I'll be happy to answer your questions. I have 4 things which I want to ask you to help me understand who all have joined in today. So my first question would be, friends, if you maybe you mentioned the city that you come from. I would like to know which cities you come from. Second, if you're already in the business of in any form of franchise business, if you're running, you may please mention that. If you run any form of business, or you are maybe a professional or any other maybe occupation that occupies you, if you can put that in the chat box, maybe with your name and your profile. I like to maybe uh, read that out and for you. And I see a lot of you who have joined in today. So I repeat my questions, friends. First is, I like to know which city that you come from. Second, if you already run any form of business, whether that's your own business or a franchise business. And if you're already a professional looking to start a business, I'll be happy to hear from you. And my third question would be your industry of interest. If you have shortlisted any industry or maybe even subcategory, you say, I like to have something in food, but I'm looking for a cloud kitchen, I'm looking for a fine dining, I'm looking for a specific cuisine. It can be as specific as you want. So I'll request all of you to please put that in the chat box for me to read out. So as you do that, I'll start also giving you a little understanding on the 4 fitments which I talked about. And there are 4 important elements, rather 5 important elements, which are important to take into consideration before even deciding on the brand which you should sign off. And I call that self-assessment tool, number 1, which is assessing your entrepreneurial mindset, which is extremely important. And that to me is a starting point. Every time I meet people who want to invest in business, I don't go and start in terms of what investment you want to make or what industry you want to get in. My first question starts with their own assessment of what their goals are, their life goals, their financial goals in the business, who all are going to be involved in the business. So the first area which you should assess is your own assessment of your entrepreneurial mindset, self-assessment. The second is the industry that you want to get in. So how do you assess the industry that you want to get in? Third is, how do you assess your market, which means, is the market right for the opportunity that you want to bring in? And micro market analysis is extremely important because in India, given the demographics we have, every market behaves very, very differently. And maybe one brand does very great in certain markets, might not be very successful in other markets. So third is market assessment, and fourth is your competition assessment, which means that if you have selected any category or a subcategory of business, how do you assess the competition which is there in the market? And the lastly is assessing the brand, the opportunity that we have selected. So these are 5 assessment tools which you have to take a very holistic view, right? And let me explain all these one by one. So when we talk about self-assessment, it is about your entrepreneurial mindset, which I talked about, which means what does entrepreneurship means to you, right? So we need to overcome our weakness, I'm sure, as first-time business buyers or entrepreneurs or even as seasoned entrepreneurs. It is very important that we know our strength and weakness. We need to define them, and I would say write them. And and if there are certain weaknesses that you have as a business owner or an aspiring business owner, someone in your family, your inner circle can take that over, that weakness. So it's very important that we define that when we work on our assessment of our self-discovery stage. And a couple of things which you should also align. And 2 most important things is your life goals. And second is your, I would say, the business goals. The alignment of life goal and business goal is very, very important, which includes maybe your life event, which are important, the finances that you need at what time, the time commitment you have to give in the business. And you have to be very, very honest with yourself when you answer these questions. The second is your financial goal, which is again very important. If you look at different asset classes where one can invest, there are typically 3 investment classes which can broadly be classified in. One investment class is safety, where you put your investments in instruments or assets which give you safety. The second asset class is where you want to generate income from the investment you have done. And the third asset class is the growth asset class, where you want to have a very high generating income or high growth income. Now, if you look at these three, I would say, overall categories, there are also three other rules proportionately that you need to think about. And I call that TRR rule, which is the timeline to achieve that financial goal. Number one. Second is the risk that you are willing to take to achieve that financial goal. And third is the return that you expect from that investment or the business that you have invested in. So coming back to the three categorizations which I talked about in asset classes, if you're looking at safety as your fundamental goal, definitely the business that you invest in, your risk appetite obviously is low because you're looking at safety. Your return would also be low. So risk and return are very proportionate to each other. Higher the risk, higher the rewards. Lower the risk, lower the rewards. So safety businesses would mean that you have low risk and low returns. Income based businesses would mean you have moderate risk and moderate return. But growth centric businesses means that you have a high risk, but equally very rewarding returns. So we need to categorize that. Where do you actually fall in? The third important area is also to understand your capital liquidity that you have to invest in the business. And we always advise to avoid any kind of leverage. The thumb rule that we follow in a business is 50-50, which means that if you're looking to invest in a business, bring at least 50% of your own equity in the business, and 50% can come in the form of any softer loans. Having said that, if your investment is anything which is less than, I would say, 30 odd lakhs, then you should bring in a bigger ratio of your own equity, which means that bring at least 75% of your own capital and 25% of your loan amount, because the biggest reason for any business failure is lack of financial management. And the cost of capital in India is very, very high. So as you start your business, you have to have working capital. On top of that, there's a big interest that you pay on the loan that you have taken. So you need to weigh your asset and the liabilities, avoid leverage, and invest within your means. The second area which I want to talk about is the industry assessment. How do you assess the industry that you want to get in? And couple of things, and the most important, I would say, you need to see how big is the overall opportunity pie. How big is the addressable market for that industry or that category? Is it overcrowded? Is it commoditized? Do we already have too many players in the market? Or you, as a business owner, can you have the first mover advantage of starting that business in your city? The last 6 months, Franchise India got in about 35 international brands. And most of these people, like I said, who took the master franchisee for regions including Gujarat, we have sold in Maharashtra, Pune, Bombay, Delhi, Kolkata, Chennai. Most of these people, like I said, they're first-time business buyers. And they were also people who wanted to experiment. They were not waiting on the fence for somebody to take over, but they got into it. They started the business. I'm happy to also share with you. We launched a brand in the month of May from France, which is Frank's, which is a leading hot dog chain. There is no hot dog chain in the country. And we had, the first location opened up in Pune. Again, first time business buyer, I would say, young couple, husband and wife, who come from hospitality background. They took the rights. And we have the first outlet operating at El Pro Mall, which was launched about 3 weeks back. And the last week, we launched 2 more locations in Bangalore, again taken by an IT couple from Bangalore who've taken the rights for Bangalore and entire Karnataka. And we have the first outlet that launched in Mall of India. And there's another one that we launched a day before in one of the IT parks. And there are 3 more which are coming up in Bangalore. So understand how big is the opportunity size. Can you have the first mover advantage? And if I talk about these locations Franks has taken, these are the most prestigious malls that the outlets have come in, because the category is great. And we were able to get the most promising properties in the most iconic malls between Pune and Bangalore. The second area is to also understand the growth prospect of that opportunity. And it requires thinking and acting over a time horizon of years and not months. So whenever you look at investing in any business opportunity, you need to understand, is this going to be relevant in the next, say, 10 years time or 15 years time or 20 years time? That's very, very important, right? And third is to understand the demand and the supply gap. You might be investing in a category or industry which might have too many players in the market. There could also be a situation where there are not too many players in the market, but both situations I would say is good, right? So you need to find the demand and supply gap, and you need to find also the differentiator. There might be a couple of players in the market already operating in the market, but they might be differentiator in terms of the product which is being provided by that company or a brand, the solution that they bring in, maybe the technology differentiator that they bring in. So find that out, which helps you analyze, how well that brand is suitable for that market. The third area which I'll talk about is the assessment of the market, which again includes two important areas. First, I'll talk about regulations. In India, regulations are both a center and a state subject. And the regulations with respect to, I would say, drug license for opening a pharmacy, liquor license, especially in, Tamil Nadu, Hyderabad, very, very expensive, easy in places like Delhi NCR. So what does the regulation on that industry are for your state? Very important to understand in your market, your state. And second is the location, the property, the real estate, which is extremely important to be considered. The thumb rule that we follow here is go and look at the top 5 leading brands in your cities. For example, you're in Pune or Ahmedabad, which are the top 5 brands in the category. For example, if there are gyms operating in the city, which are the top 5 companies at the national level. They might be international brand operating in your city. They might be a regional brand operating in your city. They can also be a local brand, which is very, very popular operating in your city. So at least find these top 5 players who are operating in your market, and look at the locations which they are running their centers, their gyms. And out of the locations which they are running, understand which are the top performing locations for them. There might be a situation where they are operating out of a lot of locations, but all these locations might not be doing the same efficiency or throughput, which are the highest performing location for these companies. We go and find that out and open next to it, right? So when you open next to the competition where they are performing well, your chances of success is comparatively very, very high. The fourth area is doing a competitive analysis, which means you've selected some opportunities, but you also want to take a overview of how the competition is performing. So we understand if there's a competitive advantage, and select at least 7 to 8 opportunities in that category. Understand the brand penetration, how the company has been performing. Is there a barrier to entry? Barrier to entry are obstacles that make it difficult for a new company sometimes to enter a given market, which again can be government regulations, it can be patents, it can be licensing requirements. So all that is something that you have to work on, and understand if there is a product offering or a product differentiation, which helps you differentiate, between the opportunities that you are selecting. And finally comes the assessment of the brand. So after going through all these 4 assessments, how do you assess the brand that you have finally narrowed down your interest on? And this is something which has to be done with a lot of time and due diligence, analysis, insights, which you should do before you sign the agreement with the company, which includes a couple of things, I would say, starting with the credibility of the brand, the commitment of the brand to their partners, the legacy of the company. And sometimes these companies might not be very, very old, but some form of success, some form of commitment of the founders is something you will always have your hands on and information available. The second area is to understand the standardization of their systems and processes. Today, a lot of new companies come and start franchising. But I also realize a lot of these companies, when they start franchising, they don't have their SOPs laid down, and which creates a lot of operational inefficiency in day-to-day operations for a franchisee, which eventually makes scaling very, very difficult and very difficult to even replicate, right? So ensure that the company is process oriented. It helps you bring in a lot of efficiencies. It helps you replicate the systems and processes which the companies has laid down. And the third area is to understand the operating expenses, any kind of reinvestment which is required to be put in the business. Every time I meet business buyers, investors, I see them talking only on the initial investment which is required. I mostly don't even see them talking on the operating cost. And that's something which is a very big operating cost, which is an ongoing investment or a cost that you have to incur, including your rentals, including the salaries, including the cost of the goods or the cost of the food. So understand what are the operating costs, what are the operating margins in the business, how long will it take for you to get your investment back. And ROI is something which is also very subjective and a very big myth. Typically, to give you understanding on the ROI is very proportionate to the horizon of the opportunity, which means that the horizon of the opportunity is say 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And a lot of businesses, for example, hotels, K-12 schools, and even I would say five-star hotels, K-12 schools, hospitals, they have a very long horizon. We have not seen these schools or hospitals and hotels closing every 5 years. So the horizon of these opportunities is very, very big. And for that matter, we're in petrol pumps, right? So they sign up an agreement for about 30 odd years. So depending on the horizon of the opportunity, your return on the investment is calculated. But any I would say industries, categories, which are typically a 5-time agreement term, your average return on investment is almost about 35%, which means that in a period of 2.5 to 3 years, you get your entire investment back. And finally comes your legal agreement. India is our contract. We work on a contract law like the British contract law, and everything which is put in the contract becomes the binding between both the parties. So it is very important that we go through all the terms and agreements, including conflict resolution in case any kind of conflict arises in the company between you and the franchisee. So these are some of the things that every investor, every business buyer should consider before they invest in a business. So where do we come in as Franchise India? We take you through the entire discovery because I understand you might have a lot of questions in your mind, what industry to get in, what investment is good to start off with. Yesterday, I happened to speak to somebody from Bombay. He's a big real estate developer. He wanted to invest 10 crores. He said, I have a lot of capital to be invested, but I want to take the area rights of some international brands, but I have no experience of franchising. What goes into it? What support do I get? What are the opportunities which are available? And so there are many questions, especially with first-time business buyers. So what we do is we have a very tried and tested methodology where we work with every single business buyer to understand the 4 fitments, which is your investment you want to bring in, which is, I would say, financial fit, the working capital that you have to put in the business. Second, we also work with you to identify the market fit, which means is that market relevant for the brand that we want to bring in, or what kind of opportunities can work in that particular market. Third, what we consider is we consider operational fit, which means what kind of time involvement do you have in the business. And we call somebody an operator partner if he has at least 3 to 4 hours in a day to devote into day-to-day running of the operations. And then comes your strategic fitment, which can be your profession, it can be the education, your profile, if you have similar experience in the business. So when Franchise India team works with you, we do our evaluation based on these 4 fitments. And when we analyze these 4 fitments, then our team works with you in creating a portfolio of brands which is closest to these 4 fitments. Now, having said that, it is not important that all these 4 fitments have to be on 10 on 10. In certain cases, financial fitment is more important than operational fitment. And there are some businesses which require, for example, the bigger businesses I talked about, for example, a hotel or maybe a hospital for that matter, or a K-12 school. A lot of companies don't need you to be an operating partner. They need a strategic fitment and a financial fitment, which means the property, which means the finances that you invest in. But businesses, for example, food, fashion, most of these companies who franchise today, we work with these companies, they want somebody who comes with a lot of operational time to run and operate the business. So depending on the requirement of the company and your own fitment for these 4 dimensions, we work to create a portfolio of brands. We share that portfolio with you. We also take you through the entire path where we help you discover all these opportunities one by one, which includes the industry insights and validated learning, which we have gathered over the years, and get you on one-to-one meeting with these companies, the leadership, or I would say decision makers, which is very important, including even tours of their centers, their offices, connecting you with their existing franchise partners or stores. All that is something that we work with every single business buyer through the entire process. And after that is done, then we work with you in assisting in deal structuring, which is very important. A lot of times people even decide what they want to buy. I see a lot of investors who come to our exhibition, they decide the brand which they want to buy. Maybe they've selected and explored, but they still come to us and say, can you help us structure the deal for my market? So that's something that takes a lot of our time. We get involved end to end till the time your LOI and agreement is signed with the company. So, friends, this is what I had to share with you today. I will also request if you have any questions that you want to ask, I will also put our, let me put in the Q&A box, maybe in the chat, I'll put our hotline number, which is 9717-683838. And I will also share my email ID, which is csonia@franchiseindia.in. If you have any questions, please let us know. And like I said, we have teams across 97 cities in India. And wherever you come from, I'll have a local team member who will be available in that city. And before I leave, friends, I'll also like to share every day we bring one new opportunity for our investors where you can educate yourself on the business models which exist, new companies which are coming to the Indian market. And today we have a brand called Sweet Factory, which is looking to enter India. And we have the founder, Lisa, who's coming and presenting this opportunity for all our friends in India. The company already operates in about 20 international markets. They're looking to enter India. It's a very, very interesting category. We have no international brands in this category. They typically operate out of malls, airports globally. And these are candy stations, which is very, very popular globally and also in India. We don't have even a single national chain, international chain in India. So I'll request all of you, if you would like to be attending this, I'll just share a link with all of you. You can just click the link and attend. So maybe you can copy this link, which I have shared in the chat box. I'll request all of you to copy this link. If you want to attend, it'll just take you a few, I would say 50, 60 seconds to register yourself. We start exactly at 12 o'clock. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. I've also shared the hotline number 9717-683838. You can WhatsApp on this number. Somebody in my team can get in touch with you. And I've also shared my email ID if somebody wants to reach out to me. And once again, friends, I thank you for coming on the webinar today. I request you all to take a look at the link that I've shared in the chat box. If you wish to attend today's webinar, and if you also want to attend more webinars, so every single day we launch one new opportunity for our investor community to be educated and be able to take an informed